People love Joel Osteen's smile, his talks, and his message of hope. But he just got some terrible news. His journey has taken an unexpected and emotional turn. He went from leading one of the biggest churches in the world to dealing with his own loss. What happened behind the scenes? And why is he being talked about again all of a sudden? Wait until you hear the truth. It will shock you. One of the most famous preachers in the world is Joel Osteen. He has a huge following around the world thanks to his positive, uplifting words and TV sermons. He is the leader of Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas. Millions of people watch Osteen every week, and his books are bestsellers. He has become a sign of hope and faith for many. His lesson is often about how powerful faith is, how to grow as a person, and how to stay strong when things get tough. He has kept his public image clear of problems for most of his work. He is known for being calm, having a positive tone, and having a big smile. But in early 2024, Osteen's name started to be talked about for reasons that had nothing to do with his normal message of hope. In the year 2024, on February 11, something very bad happened at Lakewood Church. As families met at Lakewood Church on that Sunday afternoon, a woman named Janice Moreno walked in with her young son and an AR-15 rifle. Authorities have not yet confirmed the reason for the attack. Moreno opened fire inside the church without notice, making the people there scared and confused. While the attack was going on, she shot her own 7-year-old son, seriously hurting him. He was taken to the hospital right away with serious brain damage and is still in critical condition. During the shooting, another man in the group was hurt. 2 off-duty police officers who were working as security at the church quickly stopped Moreno before he could do more damage. They got close to the shooter and shot and killed her, ending the disturbing scene. The event shook the Lakewood Church community to its core. There are still a lot of questions about the case that detectives are trying to answer. It's still not clear why the woman did what she did, and authorities haven't said for sure if there were any bigger reasons. One thing is still certain. It was a big test for Joel Osteen and the church he has led for many years at this point. He is used to being in the public eye, but this time it was because of a painful event that put the values he preaches to the test. Soon after what happened, Joel Osteen felt he had to do something to help his community get back together during this very hard time. Find out how he decided to comfort his people and lead them with faith and kindness through the storm. A week after what happened on February 11, Lakewood Church held a special meeting that was all about healing. It wasn't a normal Sunday get-together. This time the goal was clear: to bring comfort to the families of the victims, help those who were hurt, and send a message that faith is stronger than fear. Joel Osteen stood in front of the crowd not as a famous pastor, but as a leader trying to help his people get through their sadness. His message was full of hope, and a reminder that faith can be a source of power, even when things look bad. The event had effects that went far beyond the church doors. The young boy who was hurt is still feeling the most painful effects. He is still in serious condition, and will have a hard time getting better for a long time. People all over the country are very sorry about his health and are worried about him. His family has been through a lot of trauma, and they are now at the center of support activities in Houston and around the world. The people who live near Lakewood Church also felt the mental weight. A lot of people were truly upset because they saw something they never thought they'd see in a peaceful place. The tragedy had an effect on people all over the world. Lakewood Church is known all over the world, and a lot of people from all over the world who are religious go there. A lot of messages of love, support, and unity came in from people all over the world. Faith leaders from different religions and cultures, religious groups, and people who watch Joel Osteen's shows all gave words of comfort and encouragement. The people of Lakewood were told that they were not the only ones in pain by this show of support. Even though it was sad, there were times when people were brave. People called the 2 off-duty police officers who went to the scene heroes. The problem didn't get worse because they acted quickly. A lot of people say that their courage saved lives and stopped more harm from happening. The public knows about their work, and their part in the disaster has become a symbol of how dedicated and selfless people can be. Joel Osteen knew that besides comforting the community, he had another important job to do. He had to look over and improve the church's security. There were no longer any safe ways for Lakewood Church, which is visited by more than 45,000 people every week. The terrible event showed that there were major holes in safety measures, and it was clear that changes had to be made right away. The event brought up questions that went beyond the acts of a single person. The woman involved, Janice Moreno, had a history of schizophrenia. Even though she had a mental illness, she was still legally able to get guns. People all over the country are talking about mental health, gun access, and systems of control that are meant to stop these kinds of things from happening. A lot of people are now wondering how someone with a known mental illness could get around the protections that are already in place. It has become a very scary example of how the law and medical systems don't always talk to each other properly. Right away, the most important thing for Joel Osteen and Lakewood Church became making sure that something like this would never happen again. In the days that followed the event, church leaders went over all of their safety procedures again. Lakewood already had off-duty police officers there once a week to help with security. But the size of the incident showed that more was needed for a place that gets so much attention from the public. Osteen reevaluated high-risk places on the church campus with the help of local police and private security experts. An increase in the number of trained security guards at services and other events was one of the first moves. It wasn't just police officers who joined. There were also workers with experience in dealing with emergencies and keeping crowds safe. Their appearance was meant to protect people in public and get things ready behind the scenes. The rules for getting in were also looked over. Lakewood is known for being a friendly and open place, but the team added new checking rules and security at the entrances. The surveillance systems were improved so that they could see more, be clearer, and send alerts more quickly. Care was taken to make these changes so that the warm atmosphere that tourists expect would not be lost, while also adding the necessary layers of safety. Lakewood Church also started working with mental health workers to teach their staff how to spot signs of distress or strange behavior before things get worse. Not only security staff were made more aware of these changes, but also greeters, ushers, and volunteers, who work directly with guests every week. Osteen also worked with others to push for better contact between healthcare systems and police about people who are at high risk. Even though the church can't change national policy, Osteen knew that his position has a lot of power. By openly calling for better system checks and better ways to report problems, he added his voice to the growing call for smarter ways to stop them. In addition to his work at the church and in the public eye, Joel Osteen has a family and personal life, and lately that part of his life has been under more and more stress. Behind the scenes, his personal life has been full of surprises, including hard times and even sad news. Let us take a closer look at what he's been going through behind closed doors. Joel Osteen is known for running one of the biggest churches in the world, but he is also a husband, father, and family man. He lives in Houston, Texas, with his wife Victoria Osteen and their two kids, Jonathan and Alexandra. Their home has always been a safe place, one that shows the values he teaches, like faith, family, and peace. But in the past few months, Osteen's personal life has been rocked by a string of very upsetting events that have made him feel badly and given him health problems. One of the saddest news stories came out in September 2024. Then there were reports that some of Osteen's extended family had died in a house fire in Houston. Early stories from online sources said that the victims were a niece and a cousin. His fans were sad when they saw the news quickly spread on social media. But major newspapers in the area, like the Houston Chronicle, did not confirm the tale. Someone from the Osteen family may have been involved in a fire, but neither Joel nor Lakewood Church have confirmed the tragic details in any official records or comments. As a result, there is still a lot of doubt and debate about what happened. Even though there isn't much confirmed information, the emotional effect of these kinds of stories, even if some or all of them aren't true, adds to the pressure Osteen has been under all year. It can be hard to deal with sadness or even just the rumors of grief, even more so when they lived in public. To make things even worse, Joel Osteen is said to have had a medical problem in October 2024. Online sources say that he was rushed to a hospital in Houston after having a sudden health problem. However, no official diagnosis or reason was given. His fans became more worried about what was going on, and many sent prayers and wishes through social media. Osteen later went back to working with the public, which seemed to show that he had recovered, but the facts of what happened are still secret. One thing stays clear throughout these problems. Osteen has had a very hard time behind the scenes. His public image is still calm and collected, but it's clear that he, like everyone else, has had times of fear, doubt, and possible loss. For someone whose message is all about being strong through hard times, these events have really put his resolve to the test. Not only has the past year tested his ability to lead, but it has also tested his strength. Joel Osteen has always preached about how important it is to stay grounded during life's storms, and he is live proof of those ideas. Although the problems don't always make the news, they add another human side to one of the most watched religious figures in the United States. Before even more terrible news about Joel Osteen started going around, he had to deal with a lot of untrue stories and mental stress. This time the reports were even worse, making it hard to tell the difference between guesswork and sadness. Joel Osteen has had some tough times in his personal and public life, but the widely false reports of his death may have been the strangest and most upsetting. In the past few months, false stories about his health and even his survival have spread quickly across the internet, making his millions of fans confused, worried, and scared. Not only did these death scams shock his loyal fans, but they also made people think deeply about how quickly and harmfully false information can spread. Around December 1, 2024, a story started going around on social media and unknown websites saying that Joel Osteen had sadly died in a plane crash. The article said that Osteen was on his way to a missionary event overseas when the plane crashed. It gave specifics like the flight path and the number of people on board. It even cited what it said was a statement from law enforcement. The news quickly spread, and the top stories said that one of the world's most important religious leaders had died. But just hours after the story came out, it was clear that the report was completely false. The story was quickly checked by major news organizations, like the Associated Press, and they found out it was completely false. Police didn't say anything in public, and neither Lakewood Church nor Osteen's family confirmed what they knew. Joel Osteen was, in fact, still living. He was later seen at his usual weekend service, just days after the rumor spread. Another report from September 2024 said that Osteen's daughter Victoria had been hurt in an accident, which added to the rumors. The story spread on niche websites, but no reputable news source ever picked it up or confirmed it. The Osteen family didn't say anything about this, and there were no medical or public records to back up the claim. It's still not clear if there was an event or not, but since nothing has been proven, the story is purely speculative. The bad news is that the lies didn't stop there. This time the stories said that Osteen had died in a serious car crash. They started going around in June 2025. Though the headlines were not very clear and the sources were not very reliable, they were still enough to start another round of online discussion. This story, too, turned out to be wrong, just like the first one. It's true that Osteen was in a car crash and had to go to the hospital, but his injuries were not fatal. He got help and finally went back to his normal routine. Still, the event made people think about how quickly confusion can turn into fear when there isn't enough correct information. Along with the false information itself, these stories are all about how it can hurt people, both the person who spreads it and the people who hear it. Being the target of false death reports is not only upsetting for Joel Osteen, a spiritual leader known for keeping things calm when things go wrong, but it could also be a distraction from his work, which is to help millions of people and guide them through their own problems. Up until now, it looked like Joel Osteen was stuck in a never-ending web of fake news and lies. Then he was hit by another tragedy that wasn't a fake. It was real, painful, and hard to ignore. Joel Osteen was in the middle of a real and painful disaster in June 2025, one that had been following his family around for almost 20 years. They pointed to a reopened murder case involving Johnny Daniel, his 84-year-old great-aunt. Daniel's death in 2006, which was still not solved, had been a painful scar on the family's past. Now that agents are back in the case, it is being looked at very closely again. This new attention has caused both emotional turmoil and tough questions. At the start of the case, in 2006, Johnny Daniel, a longtime Houston resident and cousin of Joel Osteen, was found dead in a strange way. Because she was 84 years old, the event was even more upsetting. The police quickly found a suspect and arrested a guy not long after the crime. But what happened next was a long, hard, and deeply flawed legal path. Even though the suspect was arrested, he or she was never actually tried in court. Why? There wasn't enough DNA proof, and many people now think that the police and prosecutors handled the case badly. The case stopped being active over time. The suspect stayed in jail without being officially found guilty. He or she was held for almost 18 years without a hearing. Legal experts and advocacy groups started to question whether or not the man should have been detained for so long, especially since there wasn't enough strong forensic proof to link him to the crime. Legal watchdogs and civil rights groups were getting more and more angry about this long-term imprisonment with no end in sight. The unresolved case was hard on the Daniel and Osteen families, and Joel Osteen kept growing his mission around the world. In private, he didn't talk about the violent death of a family member very often, but the pain of it always stayed in the background. The case then took a big turn in early June 2025. Officially, investigators restarted the file in the hopes that new forensic technology and more attention would finally lead to answers. Reports from The Independent say that the move to look into the case again came after new legal reviews of evidence that had been handled wrongly and more calls across Texas to look into cold cases again. The suspect, who got out of prison in late 2024 after years of legal trouble, is still a big part of the new probe. But this time, the officials are looking at things in a bigger way. They are going over the whole original case file again, checking all the forensic evidence using new methods, and talking to witnesses from the past again. The goal is not only to get Johnny Daniel justice, but also to fix mistakes that the law has made in the past. Since then, the story has gotten interest from both local and national media, both because it involves the Osteen family and because it has bigger implications for the justice system. A lot of people think it's unfair to hold someone for almost 20 years without giving them a hearing. For the Daniel family, the question of who really killed Johnny is still open. As the probe goes on, Joel Osteen hasn't said anything about the case in public. He is, as you might expect, very upset about this because it involves a sad part of his family's past. Still, the case brings up bigger issues about how crimes that aren't solved can continue to affect families for decades after the fact. Joel Osteen has made it through the storm for now. Anyone could have been scared by the fake death rumors, the made-up stories about family members who had died, and the close scrutiny of his leadership after what happened at Lakewood Church. But Osteen, who is known for preaching calm in the middle of chaos, has stayed in the background and kept leading. He went back to speaking regularly, kept showing up at community events, and stepped up his message of spiritual hope, even though he was having his own uncertain times. Osteen's main goal for the future seems to be to improve what he has already built. Lakewood, his church, is still one of the most important in the world. Millions of people still watch his TV shows, and he still has a strong online presence. In addition to preaching, he is likely to do more writing, speaking, and digital media work in the years to come. Maybe even more importantly, Joel Osteen seems ready to grow as a leader, not just as a pastor. He has been through the fire and come out stronger. After having to deal with both public lies and personal pain, he may now approach his goal with even more empathy and know that his sermons, books, and the way he connects with his audience on a personal level could show how he has grown. Improvements to security at Lakewood Church, health programs for his family, and a fresh focus on healing the community are all likely to stay top priorities. In the background, the new probe into his great-aunt's murder is still going on. Osteen will probably continue to handle this process in a quiet and polite way, keeping his family close and his public profile low. What is Joel Osteen going to do next? He should do more of what he does best, being a leader with faith, handling storms with grace, and showing that purpose doesn't fade. When you face real-life problems, it grows. How did you feel about Joel Osteen's journey through these hard times? Drop your ideas in the comments box below.